Good morning and welcome back to the diary. Thank you for joining me and welcome to a frosty, foggy morning in the Highlands of Scotland. One thing I love about fishing for the pike up here is the scenery, and frankly this morning I'm not going to get to see much, I don't think, for a while. So that's all 3 rods in. I'm fishing. Those of you that follow the channel will eventually, hopefully, realise when they see where I am that this is where I normally start a trip to the Highlands. It's not a prolific spot, but I usually manage a fish, so I thought may as well start there. We're here for a week, but I'll get, with a bit of luck, I'll get about 3 days, possibly more, fishing in, and possibly some new venues. I've been working hard over the summer, establishing contacts with various people to see if I could get on to waters that I've never fished before, and hopefully, I've got a couple more phone calls to make, but hopefully later in the week I may get onto one of those, and one I'm quite excited about, not because it promises to throw up any special fish necessarily, but for years I've tried to get onto one of the Highland salmon rivers to see if I could find a pike or two, and for years the answer's always been no. I got close a couple of years ago when I got an acceptance and permit to fish one of the pools on quite a well-known salmon river which empties into one of the very big locks. I know the lock has pike in it, and I was quite hopeful. Sadly, a couple of days before I was due to go, I got a phone call from the keeper just to remind me that any pike that I caught had to be killed. So that was never going to happen, so that didn't work out. However, I have been corresponding with a small estate up in the further north of where I am at the moment, and at the moment I've got permission to fish on their stretch of the river. It's slightly unusual in as much, and slightly more promising as far as pike fishing is concerned, because the river, it's a spot where the river widens into quite a big pool, in fact a very big pool, and I've driven past it many times over the years, looked at it and thought, if there's going to be pike in the salmon river anywhere, that might be the spot. So fingers crossed. As I say, I've got one other phone call to make just to confirm everything, but hopefully that I might manage that later in the week. Right, so now all we need is some action here, and rest assured, if anything happens, I'll be back. Well, that's the first 2 hours and nothing to report, and the fog is hanging on. It's not showing any real signs of lifting, although behind me the sun is trying to come up over the hill, so hopefully that might burn it off. It'd be nice to see where I am, to be honest. There is a lot of weed out there. So I suspect I'm dragging the load in with me. You know what I've forgotten? I've forgotten the net. I'll be back in a minute. Right, I've got the net. Yeah, like I said, a load of weed. A load of weed and a little jack. Like I say, a ton of weed and a small jack, but that's the blank saver, is nothing else. There she goes. Something taking line. Yeah, something there. Won't be another ton of weed, of course. And I've forgotten the net again. Hopeless, man. Be back in a minute. It's pulling a bit. No, it's definitely in the weed now. Whoa, I don't like the feel of that. Oh, that's snagged now. Out. Load of weed. The fish is still there. Another jack though, I think. Oh, God. A little bit bigger. With 100 weight of weed attached. Oh, goodness me. What a state. Yeah, I'll be back in a minute. Look at the state of this. Well, that was a bit of a struggle, to be honest. Had so much weed and it had rolled in the net, which didn't help. But as I say, I was calling it a jack, and that wasn't doing it any favours. You just see, I'll be interested in this. It's quite a fat fish. Yeah. £13. So like I say, I wasn't doing it any favours. It is a chunky old fish. Look at that. What do you make of that? That's a bit of a fatty, really. 13 pounds on the nose. Isn't that nice? Well, that's helped no end. Quick photo, I think. That's a beauty, actually. Really pleased with that. There she goes. Well, that was all right. £13. I'm not going to quibble about that. The problem, as you can tell, the problem I'm having is that I've got to bring them back through a very thick weed bed, and so it's very difficult to tell. Well, it's even difficult to tell whether the fish are still there at times, but it's certainly difficult to tell just how big they are. And I was calling that a jack when I was trying to get it in the net, and it wasn't a jack by my standards. That was a lovely fish. It was a really quite plump fish. So that's good. 2 down. That's 4 hours, so we've still got plenty of time for another one, perhaps. And don't get me wrong, if I sound like I'm complaining about this weed, I'm not. The reason I'm fishing here is because that weed bed's out there, and I think I've said many times to you before about needing to find a feature when you're fishing these big locks, and so the feature today, weed bed, and so far so good. Something there. It was on the mackerel again. Well, there's another little jack. There you go. There she was gone. Getting quite busy now. Can't feel anything though. Not sure. We'll have a look here. Oh, something there. It's a bonny coloured fish, that one. Quite bright, isn't it? There you go, boy. Away you go. He can't make his mind up. Well, that's it. Time to go. A 4-fish day, which, to be honest, I'm quite happy with. And a tubby 13-pounder was the icing on the cake. Where to next? Well, I'm afraid I can't tell you, because I've tried twice to ring the estate where I was hoping to fish next, and nobody's picking the phone up, so I need to try again this evening. So wherever I end up, hopefully you can join me. Till then, bye for now. Well, good morning and welcome back. And good news, I made it onto the river. I've been fishing a couple of hours, to be honest, but with no signs of life. It's now I've had a chance to get a good look at this stretch, and I have to say I've never really had a look at it before, other than driving past on occasions. It's quite strange, actually. The main flow comes in. You might be able to hear it in the background. It comes through quite a long stretch of white water, and then empties into what is quite a large bay, to be honest. How deep it is in there, I don't know, because I've decided to start off fishing the river channel. Just to see if I can find anything down here. I'll end up in the bay later today, I think. I'm only fishing one rod because I'm working the water. When I got here first thing, I had a bit of a feel around with a lead, and as you might expect, it's boulders and rocks and all manner of nastiness, and felt a bit of a tackle graveyard, to be honest. So I decided to fish a suspended bait under a float and search the water, as I said earlier. And I've started. The river channel's probably, I don't know, it's this deep. I've checked the depth. It's anything up to 10 feet. It's about 200 yards long, I guess, something like that, before it empties over the next set of rapids. So quite unusual. But it looks pikey as hell, to be honest. As I say, 2 hours, and I haven't been able to prove one way or the other whether there are any pike here. But we'll keep trying, and obviously if anything exciting happens, I'll be back. Right, halfway through the day, and I've moved. I searched for, I don't know, probably 100 yards of the river channel. Gave it a good looking at, as they say. Absolutely nothing. And so I've come into the bay, and I've just checked the depth I've got here, and thinking it was going to be very shallow. And in fact, I've got a bait out now in 12 feet of water, so far from shallow. And on that basis, I've decided, and the fact that there's a really evil cold breeze got up, I'm a float ledgering now, brown trout bait in, as I say, 12 feet of water, which I was more than surprised of. And in fact, frankly, I've got enough space here that I might put a second rod out, because that sort of depth, if there's going to be fish anywhere, they might well be here. I'm really surprised, I have to say, because 8-10 feet was the maximum I found in the river channel, and then you come in here and it's 12 feet deep. Really weird. But anyway, let's just see how it goes. Got 4 hours left yet. The brown trout rod float dipped. Does come back up again now though. Don't know. That's a bugger if it's dropped it. Might be. Well, I'm going to need to check it. Let go at the last minute. I think the one thing I can say for sure, it was tiny. Well, at one level that was a bit disappointing, but at another level at least it shows that there are some pike in here, or at least one. But it was only small. I didn't actually see it, but you could tell jag. So where there's life, there's hope. Fingers crossed. We've got about 2.5 hours left. Well, that's it. Blank, I'm afraid. I'll get myself packed up and I'll see you when I get back to the car, get out of this wind. Well, I have to say that that began to feel a bit like hard work towards the end. It was a very cold wind that got up, and as I think I said earlier, I hope it hasn't mucked up the audio too much. So what do I make of that? Well, I can cross off my Highland River piking off the bucket list, if nothing else. And sadly I came close to proving there was a pike in there, but not to be, which was a bit disappointing. Anyway, what's next? Well, I haven't really decided, to be honest. I have another new water that I'd like to try, but I failed miserably to track down whoever it is that controls the fishing on it. So I either fish it and risk it, or I find somewhere else to go. As I say, I haven't made my mind up what to do. Whatever it is, I hope you'll be able to join me for the next session. Till then, bye for now. Hello again. Day 3. This will be the last outing of the trip this time round. and I eventually decided that I didn't want the stress of fishing a water that I hadn't got permission to fish in advance. I like to be able to relax when I'm fishing, and not knowing whether I was going to upset somebody would play on my mind. So I've ended up, of all places, a spot that I years and years ago used to fish regularly, and then over the years caught some quite nice fish. But then it fell foul of the piking hordes, if you know what I mean. And the last time I came and had a look at the place, which would be over 5 years ago now, the place looked like a rubbish tip, if you know what I mean. And so I decided I would, if for no other reason than old time's sake, I would come and give it a go today. I have to say, it doesn't look as though it's been terribly regularly fished now, and there's probably a good reason for that, because whilst I was setting up, one of the local fishermen turned up, and he tells me that it's not been fishing very well at all. So perhaps I'm wasting my time, but as I say, if nothing else other than the good old days and for old time's sake, we'll give it a go and see what happens. Well, that's about it, I'm afraid. 10 minutes and that'll be me on the road. The end of another enjoyable week in the Highlands. The walking was as rewarding as ever, and the fishing, well, obviously not as productive as I would have liked perhaps, but due in no small part to my choice of venues. I mean, the few modest fish on the first day, and I was keen to cross my Highland river piking session off the bucket list, so that was always a bit of a long shot, I guess. And today, well, perhaps the advice I was given early on by the local, perhaps this is still one of the most heavily fished swims in this part of the Highlands, and perhaps I've paid the price for that. Still, nice place to sit, enjoyable even though there weren't so many fish, and then home tomorrow. So what's next? Well, almost certainly, conditions permitting, we'll be on a river in Yorkshire somewhere trying to find a pike there. I hope you've enjoyed this one. If you have stuck with me on this, I'm very grateful. I hope, as I say, you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.